Okay, this video is again another one about the DA Looms Infinity 2 loom. I know I did a couple like brief videos before, and I've even showed how to work with it, how I tend to move it when I'm sitting with it. But now I need to take this project off the loom. Although it's not as long as I wanted my scrap blanket to be, I do need this loom for some other projects I have in mind. So I'm going to take this off, and it'll be a panel that I can later sew together with another panel that I decide to do on this. I'll just piece them together later. So what I'm going to do, but I might make a nice little shawl or wrap length right now, who knows. But anyhow, I still like it. I think it's pretty interesting how it came together. I'm not sure exactly how I feel. As you can see all the different colors, it's kind of cool. But we want to take this off. And this is, first of all, a time-consuming process. This is not a process you want to start late at night. It is not a process you want to start when people are running around like kids or whatever. You kind of want it to be quiet. My daughter's sleeping right now, and my husband's at work, so it's kind of one of those, the prime opportunity to work with this. The first time I ever took a project off this, I think it took me about a half hour, and I wasn't even doing any kind of talking with it. So it's a very time-consuming process, but I think it's important to show from start to finish how to cast this off, because it is such a different loom to work with, unlike the straight looms I work with. So I'm going to actually show you from start to finish. So this will be a long video, and it will be probably kind of boring because you're just going to watch me take it off like I normally do. But it gives you a sense of how you turn it, how you work with it. You'll need scissors, you'll need probably some sort of hook just in case you have trouble getting the loops off and onto your crochet hook. You'll also need a crochet hook, obviously. This one's a size G, it tends to be one I favor a lot. But basically you're going to have to go by what works for you and the bulkiness of the yarn that you have on the loom. If it's a really thin yarn, you may get away with a really thinner one. If it's a thicker yarn, you may need obviously a one with a bigger end. So you're just going to be watching me take this off to see how I maneuver it, how it works. I know there's a lot of people that are interested in this loom, and it is a pricey loom. It was one of my higher investments that my husband actually got me for a gift because I was like, I want it. So I want to kind of show a little more working with it because I don't want people going into buying this blindly without seeing as many videos, about the basics of it, the casting on, the working with it once it's on the loom, and how to take it off. So let me just get a drink real quick. I'm getting over my cold. It's not soda, it's water. Okay. The other thing I'm going to do, just to be safe, is I'm going to pop in a cough drop. Because again, my throat's been kind of weird and I don't know if I sound a little froggy. So that'll cover that. So, I got my crochet hook and I got this. We're going to be doing chains in between, just like I do with the straight loom. And I got two strands. I got a black and a green that I'm ending with. And I just hope there's enough down there. I have them all balled up into a canister that kind of rolls them out. Now, because this is where I ended at this point, which is usually like the starting point, I'm going to actually turn this so that it's away from me. So that the starting point is now away from me here. And excuse me if you can see that I'm in shorts. It's kind of warm out today. Okay, so we've got our yarn, and as usual, like I always say, just kind of pull out some extra, just so that you kind of don't have to stop that much to do that kind of thing with. And again, I'm working it away from me. Now normally, I gotta adjust here, I usually have my one leg under my other leg, kind of creating more of like a tabletop scenario, and you're gonna adjust, and I know it's weird to show you that, but you want to get in a comfy spot. This is going to be tricky, it's going to be time consuming, so you want to be as comfortable as possible. And what you're going to do is you're going to pick up the first loop and put it on your crochet hook. Now normally I wouldn't be holding up this high, or I might be holding up this high. It really depends on my mood, and I don't really need that to help. Now I have to decide how many chains I want in between. So the best thing to do before you start a project on here is do a swatch. Especially doing swatches on looms that you're not used to will help out a lot. Doing a swatch, I didn't do it with this because it's just scrap yarn, but I have done it for using bulkier yarn on it. Just to get an idea of how many chains do I need in between. Some projects may require one, some may require up to 2 or 3, so it really depends on that. I think I'm going to stick with probably like maybe 2 to 3 chains in between, just to make sure it still has the same stretch as the beginning. So now all I'm going to do is I have it on my loom, and then I'm just going to wrap this around and pull it, make sure I'm getting both strands, and pull them through there. And I'm going to do 2 chains, pull them through there, and then I'm going to grab the loop off the next one and place it on there. And just like I do in the other videos, I take the front over the back and I give it a little tug. And now I'm going to do 2 more. I mean, it's been a while, and you gotta really make sure you follow in line. There's one time I did this and I realized that I went ahead of myself, so I had to kind of fix that, which was kind of a pain. So this is all you're gonna do is you're gonna be sitting here, and you're just gonna be making your chains, 2 to 3, whatever you need in between, and then going over and picking up that next loop and putting the front to the back. And that's all I'm doing. And you're basically right now, as you can tell, I'm working away from me because it's easier and gives me more room. If it was facing me the way that normal people would do it, it'd be too close to you and you wouldn't have that flexibility as much. Like I said, have your hook handy just in case you can't get any of them off. Here I go, 2 more. And again, if you're using 2 strands, make sure you get them both when you're making your loops. And sometimes they get tangled, so you just want to kind of check that. And sometimes you can gently take it back out because one yarn is kind of fraying a little bit, so you kind of want to gently take it back out and do my 2 chains and then grab my next one. And as you can already see, we're doing 2 chains in between to get this little tug, what it's looking like. That's kind of, it's giving me still a little flexibility. I could do more chains if I wanted, but again, this is just a scrap project. It's not anything major that I'm working on, so if it was something that I was going to do really big something with, I would have done a swatch first to get an idea. But at the same time, it would have been hard because I have different types of yarn on here. So, that's all I'm going to be doing this whole video is just pulling them on, putting them on. And sometimes I give it a little tug after I put the front to the back. Now this may not give me as much stretch as I want, but again, like I said, this is a, oops, I made a mistake. If you make a mistake, gently take that off and gently re-pull your string. It should pop back out so you can see where you left off, because I've had that happen before. Okay, and I can re-grab. Oh, cooperate. Tell you, stuff does not like to cooperate like it usually does for me. Alright. Let's pull this through a little bit. Okay, so I went back and I fixed that. Now I gotta grab these loops before I lose them. Alright. We salvaged that. That's why I say you definitely want to do this when it's quiet, because it is one of those kind of don't bother me moments if somebody's around. Because you really got to pay attention to if you're getting both strands, attention to how you're maneuvering this. Get through there. And if you feel like it's forcing it, gently pull it back out and retry. Because the one, as you can see, the green one is kind of fraying a little more on me. That's what's giving me a little harder time. Okay. And the reason I'm taking those off, like I said, is I have other projects I want to work on it. I want to create some other flat panels, and I like the gauge on this loom, so that's why I chose to take this off so I could have it. I'm making some interesting, hopefully interesting bags. And I just see I'm kind of turning it as I go to where I need it to have a more comfortable position to get those loops off. Now once you work that, oh, did you go through that again? Okay, that worked fine. Alright, once you kind of get to the first curve, which you might actually be able to do now, see, I'm right-handed, that's my problem. It all depends if you're right-handed or left-handed, how this might work for you. And I think I just did too many chains there. But again, it's just a scrap project. And boy, that yarn is really not liking me today. Okay. Now, if I was left-handed, I could turn this and go towards me. It's going to be a little tricky because I would need my left hand, and I'm right-handed, as I said. But as you can see, we're starting to get the stretch is going to be kind of similar. Not probably as stretchy, but it'll still work for keeping this as a flat panel. Now, if I was left-handed, or if I wanted to try, you could turn it now that it's a little easier to work this way because I'm off that side. And you could try doing it with your left hand if you're, which means if you're a left-handed person, this would probably work easier. But I'm right-handed, and if I try doing my loops and stuff, it's going to feel very awkward to me. So I'm going to need to maneuver this again because, again, I'm right-handed. So you're just going to kind of keep turning it, kind of almost tucking it under one arm if you can. and just kind of keep working until you get it to a position that's comfortable for you. But with this one, I noticed it's always like short videos, it's always like a blurb, and I wanted to make sure I did a couple longer ones to really show the time consuming of this loom. It's not a simple nifty knit loom, but I find it worth the money, just because if I wanted to do a blanket, I don't have to sew panels together, unless I'm doing like I'm doing now, making panels for it specifically. And the reason I decided to end it now is I like that little black and green edge on one side, so that's why I chose to end the flat panel now versus keeping going on these balls of yarn. And what's cool is I can take the two scrap yarns that I still have, and I can go through and add more yarn to make them bigger again, and then just make another panel whenever I have the time and when this loom isn't needed for something else. I don't have the money to buy another one. I told my husband it'd be nice to have two of these, but they're just too expensive. Okay. Oops. What the heck did I do there? Get back there. Let's see. Okay. And you'll make mistakes along the way. Now I can kind of work a little closer now because it's coming towards me, and I can still have this at a right angle. Or not necessarily right angle, but where I can work it on my right side. What's nice is this project's just going to start falling out from underneath the bottom, so it's going to make it kind of nice. I mean, I wish I was left-handed because it'd make it so much easier for some parts of this loom, but you just got to work with the loom. Instead, if your yarn is frayed, that's why doing like a sample, if you're going to use the same yarn throughout, will kind of help you know if it's going to fray on you or anything like that. That's all I'm doing is chains in between. That's why I'm not worried about being zoomed in too much, because it's more about the process. It's not about, and now I'm turning it, and I'm having it on this side because I'm getting ready to work this other curve here. And I'm going to check my yarn to make sure it's not caught in anything. I like using Bernat baby blanket yarn on this loom, for either adult blankets or baby. It's a really thick yarn, and you only usually need one strand of it, and it's really soft. I made one for my mother-in-law on this loom, and I have pictures on my Facebook and on my website, I think, of it. So I do recommend that on here. It's a little tricky taking it off, and I think with that yarn I only needed to do like one chain in between because of the thickness of the yarn. And I made washcloths on here out of that Bernat baby blanket, and they're really soft. My daughter used the one I made finally the other day in the bathtub, and she really liked it because it was soft and it was thick. So she liked that better. So I'm going to make a few more of those on this loom because those whip up kind of quick. And that's all we're doing is we're just, like I said, the chains in between. This is about all I know about crocheting. I have never given crocheting a full try. It's just, I know it's a numbers game, you know, remembering a lot of stuff, and I'm just not a numbers person, so that's why I tend to loom knit, and I only use the crocheting to do the chains. I'm not really that. I've utilized my aunt to help me with stuff that I may want crocheted. She did a bunch of circles for me that I'm going to use on some projects later. And she's actually the one that did the stuff with the coasters and the table runners that you saw on my website. She tried to loom knit. She didn't like it. And I think that's what's so interesting is finding a craft that works for you. My one friend, I call it, she regular knits and doesn't seem to get like loom knitting that much. And then me, I don't like the regular knitting, I like the loom knitting. I guess I feel it's an easier project to put down and pick back up. And I don't have to remember numbers as much. And here we go, we're getting ready to work the inside curve. I hope this video helps. I know it's kind of boring, you're just watching me cast this off, and I'm just doing simple chains, just like I do in between. But it's just to show you how much time it takes. I mean, yeah, I'm talking at the same time, but this does take a little while, and you know, it really is about how many chains you need to do in between. So you really do need to do a swatch up beforehand. And it is one of those looms that it's not bulky loom, but it is a bulky loom. Obviously, if I had a real long baby or regular blanket on this, it would be heavier as I'm moving it around. So that's something to keep in mind too. If you're using a very heavy yarn on this, it might make this process even longer or a little more heavy and hot on your lap. So when I was casting off those blankets, especially that Bernette baby blanket one, that was very warm. So, and I casted that off, I think, in the summer last year. So keep that in mind, that there will be heat, obviously, when you're using this loom because of how big the projects are. Okay, so here we go. Getting closer to that inside, so I'm going to have to turn my loom in a minute. And as you can see, like I said, it falls out the bottom. So here we're getting our flat panel all done. I like the coolness of the little black edge on the end. So that's how much we've got done so far. And that's what I think is so cool, is you wouldn't think that this size loom would create such a long panel. And it does. I think I'm working a little faster, so keep in mind when you do this the first time you do this, it's going to take a while. It's not going to be something that you're going to sit down and probably be able to cast off really quick. I mean, you might, depending on how experienced you are and stuff. But if you can't cast it off quick, don't get discouraged. Don't, like, it's so hard because I know a lot of people have their own judgments about different looms, but you gotta take what other people say with a grain of salt, because it really is about finding the loom that works the best for you and for whatever projects you're going to do. There's a lot more looms out there I'd love to get, but I do have to think about cost and I have to think about what am I going to use them for. Okay, your hands do get a little tired too. That's why, of course, I've been knitting today, so my hands are a little more tired than normal. But this will probably be, I don't know if I'll be doing any more DA Looms videos. I just want to mention I'm not getting compensated by them at all or whatever to do these kind of videos. It's just what I choose to do. I still have a Martha Stewart loom I want to do a little review on, and a sock loom, so I do have a couple other looms. Those are my more recent new looms, and I probably won't be able to buy more looms for a little while. But that's what Christmas and my birthday is for. So I'll be making my little wish list for my husband for my birthday and stuff. But I think he kind of likes that I'm getting into this kind of now, because now I tell him and a bunch of people, just get me yarn. I'd rather have too much yarn than not enough when I'm thinking of projects. And I think he likes that. He could very easily tell people, just get her some yarn, doesn't matter what kind, I'll find some use for it. My aunt has gone to garage sales for me and picked up bunches of yarn, like a big box, I think, for like $5 one time. And it was just, I think I had a picture of it up there once. And that's what's great, is because sometimes you can get that yarn from a garage sale and you're like, well, it's not that great, but it's great practice yarn. If you want to try out something, you could try it with that yarn. It didn't cost you anything, hardly at all, and then go out and get the better one. Okay, we're reaching, oh, not quite the halfway mark. There we go. That's all I'm doing, is picking up those loops off the pegs, as you can see, putting them on there, and doing the changes in between. It's a little trickier using 2 strands, but at the same time, it's because I wanted the blanket, originally blanket to be thick, so. There we go. It's starting to get a little tough, so I may need my hook to take off the rest. Or as my fingers, especially if you're somebody that has arthritis, your fingers might bother you more. That's why if you do have your pick, either a Nifty Knitter ones, the ones that came with it, you can kind of reach down and scoop it up and place it on, just like so. And I always end up setting stuff up here, so I'm just going to leave it there. That's just the way I do it. It's always, if I keep it here, I know where it is sometimes. There has been times I've asked my daughter, what did I do with my tool? And she's like, Mommy, it's on your chest. So, yeah. And like I said, it makes it easier just to scoop down. If your fingers are starting to bother you, said you got some arthritis or you've just been knitting all day, just lift it off nice and gently. And then it kind of works really nice to place it on. It's going to roll off. It's going to roll off my couch, so it's got to go back where it goes. Okay. And if you're still watching the video at this point, thank you very much. I appreciate anybody that takes the time to watch my videos all the way through. I know it may seem pointless to sit here and show you taking the whole thing off, but it's nice to kind of see the process. Like, it's not just about doing a little blur video, it's about kind of sitting down and saying, hey, you want to take this off the loom, this is how much time it's going to take you to do it, and this is how, you're going to be turning it and working it to get it the way you want. And as you notice, every time I grab the other loop and put it on, I do give my string a little pull, not too much, but just a little snug pull. Like I said, I did my 2 chains and grabbing my loop, doing that, dropping it, taking the back over the front, get over there, and then gently giving it a little pull, and then doing my chains. Okay, we're getting there. More is falling underneath the loom. It's coming. We're getting there. Hang on, we're getting there, as I would tell my daughter. And again, as you can see, I'm just turning it as I need to turn it to work it. Oops. But I can't wait to do some other projects I want to try making on this. I really am determined just to find other things to make on the looms, and I'm working on my loom knitting book, and I'm getting ready to write some more patterns for it. And I'm doing my best to just figure out, when I'm writing the patterns, I'm thinking, how would I understand it? Because as we all know, I'm not a patterns person, so writing the patterns, I'm going to write them in a way that I'm hoping would make it easier for people to follow. Just because I feel like I want people to actually be able to make the products, and I feel bad when people constantly go online and asking how to do a pattern sometimes, and they ask me and I don't really know. So if I create a pattern, I want to make sure I hopefully keep it as simple as possible. If you're a fan and you like my videos, you know that I do try to hopefully explain things in a simple manner, because I want people to understand. So I'm trying to think of some simple patterns, translate some of the patterns I've done videos to into pattern form and everything. And if everything goes right, I'm hoping I'll have it together by summer or by the early fall. I'm self-publishing it, so it's just a matter of getting things squared away here. By self-publishing, I can control the price a little more. Okay, and as you can see, you're just slowly working your way around. And it's just nice to point out again, as you can see, this is how much we've gotten off. I turn it this way. You can see this is what we've got done. So we're getting pretty good at getting, a few more pieces done. It's going to be long. Like I said, it's not going to be as long as I need it for a blanket, but I can make another panel and piece them together, or I might even turn this into something else, because I've got ideas. Which is usually really funny when I start getting ideas where one project turns into something else. And never be afraid to do that. Don't ever be afraid if you're making one project and all of a sudden you want to turn it into something else, go for it. So I'm using the hook when I need to help get the strands off. Or like I said, you can use your fingers, depending on whatever works the easiest for you. It also depends on how tight the peg might have been wrapped. But it just works off coming off just like you would a flat panel, the chains in between. It's just more time consuming and turning it more because of the curves. Okay. And again, I'm checking my yarn to make sure that it's not getting caught. And it's just a matter of turning it. It's going to be a little tricky because I'm going to have to turn this totally in a minute because I'm going to be working on the other side. And again, I'm right-handed. Okay, getting ready to do the last curve in order to go around, so I'm going to have to turn this again. Okay, let's get that last corner peg onto my loom. Like I said, because I'm right-handed, I can't maneuver my left to go around this way, so I'm going to turn it again away from me. And I'm going to work it just like I did in the beginning and go back all the way around until I get to the last part on the inside. And I'm just turning it a little more so I can see. Turning it back a little bit. Just wish this yarn wouldn't be fraying so much. It's a Karen Simply Soft yarn that worked really well when I did a baby blanket. I just think it's because it's been kind of through the mill a little bit because of being rolled into the ball and stuff, that it just might be making it fray a little more. Okay, as you can see, it's popping through the back, and we're getting quite a bit of our panel. Like I said, that's all that we've taken off so far since you've been watching. And now we're just doing the last little bit around. So keep watching and you'll see the magic of it turning into a cool thing. And as you can tell, I'm tipping it up so I can see a little better, and that kind of works a little better for me. And that's just it. You've got to play around with the loom. And don't just use it once and get frustrated. You really got to give this loom a couple tries. Even if you just do some strips, like as if you want to do some skinny scarves on this, using the whole thing as the length of the scarf, you got to give it a try. You can't just do one project on it and be like, I don't like that loom. Because you really got to play around with it. I've done 2 blankets, a washcloth, and this scrap blanket. So this is about my fourth or fifth project, I think, on it. And, you know, the first time I was like, oh, goodness. But the more I use it, then it's like you get better at it. It's just like just loom knitting in general. We always all start out making the basics of like hats, and then eventually we turn into making a lot more elaborate things. So just, you know, give different looms a chance. Not necessarily this one, like I said, because I know it's expensive, but just don't be afraid if you get a loom like this or similar, or that it's a different loom than you're used to. Excuse me, you've got to give it, you know, at least probably 3 tries on it, 3 projects on it. When you think about the whole saying, you know, third time's a charm, well, give it that 3 project chance to kind of get you to work with it better. It can be frustrating, but I like the gauge on it. I like that, you know, it's compact enough and it's creating this big long panel. Okay, now I can place it back down and off to the side a little bit here. Like I said, I do apologize for having a cough drop in my mouth in case it's messing my voice up. But I'm so glad not to be coughing as much as I've been the last couple days. Oh, okay. Again, I can kind of tilt it up a little bit so I can work on the rest of it. Okay. I mean, if, you know, you're with some friends at Loom Knit then it wouldn't be so bad to take this off while you're talking with them, just like I'm doing here. As long as they're people that aren't going to distract you as much, but encourage you. Like I said, my daughter and my husband, I would get distracted because I'd want to like play with them or talk with them, and it probably would mess me up for concentration. Like I said, the only reason I'm using this hook now is because of the fact that my hands are getting a little sore from picking them off the pegs. So you can use the hook that came with it. You can use a nifty knitter hook. Whatever you choose to do. But it's coming along nicely. And like I said, I mean, I would sew these panels together, so I would have a little bit of stretch in it to be able to do that, to be able to stretch it out and sew another panel to it and make it wider. Plus I have to vol more scrap yarn anyway, so I was like, well, since I have to make up more scrap yarn, I might as well take it off and make another panel. That way it can kind of be interesting to see, you know, it can be a fresh take, and I might change up my design and just keep working on it. It's a good way to look back and kind of see a project that has different colors and kind of remember some of the projects I did with the other things and stuff. I have not tried like tighter stitches or anything on this loom because I feel that could be trickier because of the gauge of the loom, and that you may make it may wrap too tight trying to do like a tight stitch or something. So I have not done that because I didn't want to end up yelling at myself. So I just keep it as either e-wrapping or like purling on it and just coming up with the designs there. I got a few other things, like I said, that I want to try with this. Okay. Oops, I missed the loop. So we're getting pretty close to almost getting to the end. Okay, I mean we're basically here, and we've got to go just to there. Bear with me, we're getting there. Ooh. Again, make sure you get both strands, and I'm going to tuck this over here to work my way around here. Oops. Oh, get on there. I hate when things like to fight me. And the only other problem with this loom is you can get very impatient. In the fact that you've been working on a project for so long and you just want to get the project off. Just need to get more yarn over here. But as it says, it falls through. I mean, if this was a heavier blanket, it would kind of be bothersome, the heaviness as it's falling. So just keep that in mind, that a heavier project on here is going to be a little trickier. But this is how I just maneuver it around, just kind of work the curves. lose a loop, just try to hold it in place to get all the strands back on. And don't forget, checking the kind of crochet hook you have, because that will change depending on the yarn that's here, that you have on there. And we are getting to the end soon. Okay. And that's all we're doing, is just maneuvering it the way you need to. Excuse me, to take it off the thing. Don't be afraid to stand it on its head, basically, almost. You just want to be able to work it in a way that's going to work for you. This is one method, just kind of keep turning it, tilting it on its side. And like I said, this is a long process. I just wanted to sit here and be like, okay, here it is. Here's start to finish taking this thing off, how much time it could take. And like I said, I'm talking at the same time. I've dropped a couple stitches, so I mean, you're really seeing that how long it could take if you have issues with it. But I loved how my blankets came out on this, so I'm definitely excited to make a couple more. I kind of want to make one for my husband and I. I'm just trying to figure out, what kind of yarn I want to use for it. And as for how long it takes the project on here, it really depends on how much time you have to work on it, obviously. It depends on if you got any kind of design you're trying to do with it. Like some blanket, I think I was able to do in like a week or 2 weeks and a half or something like that, 2.5 weeks. Maybe the other one took me longer or less. The scrap blanket, I didn't work on it as much as, I had the other ones, so that's why there's not as much on here. So you can't judge it by like me saying, oh, it took me 2.5 weeks. No, it could take a month, or 2 months, depending on how much time you have to work on it. It depends on the yarn you're using. A bulkier yarn might work up faster than a skinnier yarn. All those little things come into play with determining how long it's going to take you to do a project. Okay, get into the other quarter here. I'm going to move this on this side in the middle. And now we're just working this last little curve into here to get to the end. Oops, I almost missed it. Did you see how I almost grabbed the wrong loop? Because the last thing you want to do is grab the wrong loop. Like I said, I did that one time, and I don't even remember how I managed to get back to where it was and not mess up my project that much. I was so bad. Because the last thing I want to do is have to backtrack on this loom. I'm going to set that there for now. Because these don't seem to be as hard to take off. Here we go. Like you say, it drops right down through the loom, so we're definitely getting more of it. Oops. Like I said, there's a bunch of other different stuff I want to try on here too. I'm going to be trying some things with swatches before I actually show any kind of project. but I think some of the next other videos are going to be working on how to make a baby sweater, socks on this knitting, or sock loom I should say. I got the Martha Stewart loom again, like as I said before, that I want to play around with a little bit. So it's just a matter of timing and not getting stuck where you have no voice. Because the other day I sounded like a frog. My daughter thought it was funny, but I didn't. Okay. Okay. Well, sure if I need the hook for that one. Like I said, we're getting on the last little C. We're working this last little C. And as you can tell, it was all working just as if we were doing a flat panel. It's just, you see me do some slight movements just to kind of work with it, to go around the loom like I would need to. And that's all this loom is about. Now, if it was heavier, like I said before, it's going to be a little more tricky maneuvering. It's going to be a little more cumbersome. But it is totally worth it to just take your time. You know, when you're ready to cast out this loom, definitely take your time and definitely try not to have too many distractions. Especially if it's, you know, your first time with trying to take the loom, you know, do this part. And then I would advise, after you're all done, stand up and stretch. I've had to do that sometimes. Finish taking this off and then I'd stand up and I'd stretch. I almost think, as a loom knitter, you should give yourself weekly hand massages someplace. I think that would be fun. We should all go out and get ourselves a pedicure, a hand massage, get our nails done. But I think nails could be I don't know how nails would work with looming. So excited to see this get off the loom. And that's where you can make the most mistakes, because you're getting like, I'm almost to the end, I'm almost to the end. And that's almost when you have to be triple careful, because you don't want to mess up because you're so close to the end. Okay, so we're working on this last little bit. It's coming on, and I'm, again, maneuvering it into a spot that's a little more comfortable. Keeping an eye on my extra yarn so it doesn't get tangled. Excuse me. Guess I spoke too soon about the coffee. Okay. Alright, now I need another cough drop. I feel like I'm doing product placement. Need to pause for 1 minute and a mini coughing fit. Okay, which I really hate because then it's like at the stop and I'm so close to the end. Alright, but luckily I made sure that when I stopped that I pulled the loop back about midway on the crochet hook, and then you can kind of turn it and put it in between your two things, and it'll kind of help us to keep it on there. Just be careful when you set it beside you or something. So let's get this done, Missy, as I would tell my daughter. Or Mister, depending on who's watching. Okay, I need to check where my extra yarn is, because I feel like it's getting caught here. Okay. For some reason I like it on this side, so let's just fix that real quick. Okay, now I can maneuver. It's crazy the things we go through just to loom it. Alright. Okay, just a few more pegs here, and we will be all set. Like I said, just doing it like I've been doing on a flat panel. Just to show you more how it works start to finish. And again, it's going to depend on your height, I'm a big girl, so I'm moving it probably differently than somebody that was skinny. So, I mean, it's just to give you a general idea of how you'd have to work with this loom to cast it off. Okay. It's always when it gets down to the wire that you seem to have the most issues, where things don't want to cooperate. Or yarn gets caught. I've had that happen too, so you definitely want to be thinking of that. Oops, sorry. Just trying to make sure the camera's okay. Okay, I'm going to just tilt this down so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay. Hopefully you can see this pretty good because I can't check totally. I didn't think I moved it too much, but we will see. Ah. Okay, well, that's like really messed up here. Okay, that's why I was trying to do something that I wasn't ready to do. Okay. It says towards the end that you tend to get ahead of yourself a little bit, so you really gotta check to make sure. Okay, we're getting to the last little bit here. Okay. Get into the last loop, and then we're just going to take it off like we normally would. Put it on our loop. It's the last loop. Get the back over the front. Give it a little tug and kind of bring it down through the project. So it's out. Now you're still going to have yarn attached because you're going to have to cut yourself an extra. But that gives you an idea that, here we are. We've got our 5-foot long panel. And now we're just going to close it off here. So what I tend to do is I get some scissors. And then where the tail is, I'm going to cut however much you see fit. I usually like to give myself more than little. And I need to get some new scissors. Okay. So, all I do here is I bring that last little strands through. Oops. Do that last loop and I give it a little tug. Kind of help lock it in place, and then what I might do is go off to the side and go into a loop next to it and grab that again, and then grab it again, do another little loop through it, just to a sense kind of help secure it more, almost like a knot. And then I put away my tools, and you just would check on it, make sure it's tight enough, and if you really want to be secure, sometimes what I'd like to do is I just like to put another little, like a slip knot in the end of it. Okay, and then I would just trim it again. Okay. And what you can do if you want with this tail, or any other tails, because I've got a bunch that are through here that I've got to fix, some little strings that are hanging, you can try hiding it in the project, which is just simply going next to it and just kind of grabbing it and kind of hiding it into the project by taking a loop next to it and just kind of bringing that through. And that will, I mean, you just continue doing that all the way down, and that will help hide it. So there you go. That is how to do, work with this loom and to take it off. And it's amazing how something this size will create this kind of project. I mean, if you look at it, it creates a pretty, decent size, 5 foot wide panel that you wouldn't imagine that would come out of, I think it's 18 inches wide or whatever for that. And here's our little first panel for the scrap shawl or scrap blanket if I decide, or I might even use it as a simple little scrap wrap right now or something, or turn it into something else. You never know what I'm going to do with it. But I love it because it reminds me of a lot of the different projects I've done by looking at the colors, so that's why I want to do something like this. It may not be totally pretty to everybody's eyes, but it's just more of a fun little, like, throwing something together, and, I just thought it was kind of a cool idea to do it with a scrap. So this is what it is, and that is how you cast off the DA Infinity Zoo loom. If you've tied off any yarns, you want to go back through and hide them in your project and trim them a little bit and just kind of make it all look nice and pretty. But there it is, and I hope this video helped just to show you how from start to finish it looks to take something off that loom. So have a great day.